Good morning, everybody. It is great to be here at Americana, always filled with good energy and good joy and a lot of love and a lot of compassion. And when I first became mayor in 2011, I said, let's have three values that lead everything that we do in our city. And it was a city of lifelong learning, a city of compassion, and a city of good health. And compassion was the comment or the word that I made that turned some heads, and because some people said, Mayor, why compassion? It sounds soft. I said, well, one of the reasons is that I expected we'd face some big challenges as a city. I mean, the world obviously is constantly changing, faster than ever. There's all kinds of disruption. We can certainly see that right now as we send our prayers and hopes out for the people of Ukraine. But there's always seems to be things taking place. So we need more compassion in our world, in our city as well. And one of the central principles is that, city government can't fix everything. A lot of people want to say, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? The reality is it takes all of us to take on big problems and fix things. In fact, I read something about a month ago that was quite interesting. It said, the death of democracy is when everybody starts pointing at other people and saying, what are you going to do about this? As opposed to looking at themselves and saying, what am I going to do about this as well? So it's really important, not just for our community, but for our democracy in total, that we all help as much as we can whenever we can. And I also felt like the way we prepare for big challenges is to build what I call social muscles each and every day. We got to make our muscles bigger. And you do that through an act of compassion. You do that through an act of kindness. You do that through an act of service. And we've had several incidents before this big pandemic that tested us. You'll recall the temple on Bardstown Road, the mosque on River Road, where some anti-religious activity took place around confusion, misunderstanding, and hate. And the whole community came together and said, we're not going to tolerate that. And that happened because of work that we've all done with each other over these past 10 plus years in our community. Now, we didn't know we were going to have a big challenge like the arrival of COVID-19 nearly 2 years ago, a once-in-a-century pandemic. I think it's fair to say it's one of the biggest challenges that we've faced together as a city in a very long time. But the good news is that we had the community connections and the really compassionate and dedicated individuals that were standing up ready to help. Who knew all of the work that we were going to be doing through our Office for Globalization, through our ambassador academies, would train folks that could be ready for something like this. I want to recognize Amos. Amos is with us. Where are you, Amos? Right over here with our Office for Globalization and the wonderful work that you all are doing. Let's give Amos a round of applause here. Thank you, brother. So when we were facing with this pandemic, we knew that Americana would be an incredible community partner for us just because of the central point of importance that they have with our foreign-born community. So when vaccine supply ramped up last spring, Americana was the first community site that opened. And today, amazingly, marks the 20th trip to Americana to administer COVID-19 vaccines since April of last year. 20 times we have been here through our public health department. And we do that because this is such a central and trusted part of our city, but we've also done it because people have turned out. We've seen great turnouts at each event here, and so far, more than 2,700 doses have been administered at this location alone. So this is a great example of teamwork and embodies the goal of the city's LouVax mobile mission, which aims to bring vaccines directly to the people of Louisville. So LouVax Mobile, and you'll remember the LouVax site at Broadbent last year, embodied our core values. And we've saved lives with vaccines. You all have done that through the work here, to all our injectors over there, if you can hear us, and all the different volunteers as well, the interpreters, all the staff. You've saved lives, literally, with the work that's been done here. You've educated people about vaccine safety, and you all got good hearts. You've always had good parts. I know so many of y'all have just seen it in action. So by working together, these partners are making sure that people living in areas where there are traditionally low vaccination rates and high barriers to folks that are not native born to our community. So they could be transportation barriers, certainly language barriers, communications barriers, healthcare access. They can have easy access to life-saving vaccines, because this site here has largely helped immigrants and refugees. And I was talking to Farhan a moment ago, and he's saying, you know, our people they're not going to Kroger, they're not going to Walgreens, they're coming to Americana, because they know they'll have translation services here, they know that they will be seeing people that they recognize. In short, we trust Americana. This is such a huge, huge deal for us. So the power of this communication and trust has really been key. And through their outreach efforts, organizations including Americana, La Casita, the Somali Center, and See Forward Ministries have provided important facts and information to community members and hosted and promoted vaccine and testing clinics. And I was so grateful at the beginning of the pandemic when we need interpreter services for a lot of the materials that we were putting out. And Dr. Hartledge was saying, okay, how are we going to get this done? And I said, well, let's ask our Office for Globalization, because we've got all these amazing ambassadors that have gone through the academy. And our translation services through our foreign-born friends quickly was over 24 different translation services. And this was a way where I saw you all embrace citizenship in a way oftentimes that multi-generation Americans don't. And to me, that showed like what the power is of being an American citizen, and how you all embraced that and appreciated that. And it was just really, really grateful for that. So thank you. And so by providing interpreters, the Family Health Centers has broken down communication barriers. People can get the life-saving information they need in their native language again and trust. So I'm really proud to call this group here friends and partners, and I'm so impressed by this ongoing compassion. So I want to thank each of you all for showing the world what Louisville can do. Once again, continue to flex our social muscle when the times demand it. We don't know when it will be required again, but we do know it will be required again. So we'll just keep working with each other day after day to do good things. So now I'd like to present a proclamation of appreciation to our several groups, and then we'll take pictures later. But first is the Kentucky Nurses Association for their clinical leadership. Delano Manson is the CEO of the Kentucky Nurses Association, and just the reality is there is no way we could have had our community response without the Kentucky Nurses Association. Delano, you all have been amazing, both with the volume of nurses that you produced, but I think just as importantly, the leadership that you have shown through, compassion and science and training. It's been incredible. So let's hear it for Delano Manson here. And Emily Dreyer, the executive director of Americana, they do not think twice about using this facility to help people. No matter what it is, no matter when it is just how can we be of assistance here at Americana? And they do it in so many different ways, not just what we're doing here with the vaccines. So let's give a round of applause to Emily and Americana. The Family Health Centers. Again, when we talk about the importance of interpretation and connecting with the community one-to-one, no matter where we are, no matter when it's needed, they have stepped up to get us through all kinds of challenges that they have, from individual health challenges to a big global pandemic as well. So I'd like to thank Dr. Bart Irwin and Liz Edgehill that have been critical for us in the success of rolling out our vaccine. Family Health Centers. This is a group that does not like to get a lot of attention or bragged upon, and that is the Louisville Metro Public Health Department, Public Health and Wellness Department. Imagine if you're in charge of public health for a city and you start hearing about this pandemic and this virus over in China where it started, and you're thinking, okay, it's going to come to our country. And, then it shows up in Seattle, and you're thinking, what are we going to do when it comes to Louisville? Because there's not many people that have been alive since the last global pandemic. So our Public Health and Wellness Department, Dr. Moyer, Dr. Hartledge, and the whole team have just responded in an extraordinary fashion. When you think now about what we know now versus what we didn't know some 26 or 27 months ago, and what we have accomplished with the administering of over 1 million vaccines here in our city, it took not just incredible scientific and medical knowledge, but it also took great entrepreneurial ability to constantly be creating these new ways of getting out our vaccines and our testing before and after that as well, and meeting people where they are and keeping up with the science. So Dr. Hartledge, it's just been an amazing effort that you have led here. I would say the best in the country, so we're just very grateful to you and the entire public health team. Dr. Sarah Beth Hartledge. I bragged on our Office for Globalization earlier on when I became mayor some 11 plus years ago. We created the Office for Globalization because I believe it's very important that Louisville looks like the world and that we have a thriving foreign-born population in our city. Our kids need to grow up in a city that looks like the world so that they can be comfortable anywhere in the world. So our foreign-born population has grown tremendously over this past decade. The only request I have when I get together with folks that are not native born to America is I ask them to bring their tios, their tias, their aunts, their uncles, their hermanos, hermanas, brothers and sisters to our city so that we can grow even more with our foreign-born population. So it's really happening in an extraordinary way. And now we have a very vibrant community here of immigrants and refugees that is going to be such a great asset. It is such a great asset to our city. So Amos Isrimana is our assistant director at the Office for Globalization and has led so much of this work. So Amos, I just want to say you're a good man, doing a great job. La Casita. What can you say about La Casita, Karina? When we talk about some of our NGOs or nonprofits in the community that have been doing work at the individual level, at the street level, with women in particular that had been relegated to the shadows for one type of reason of abuse for another, scared, not knowing where to turn. Well, the word quickly got out that La Casita is a place that you can go to for love, for compassion, for support, for clothing, for food, for connection. It's been extraordinary. I've had the pleasure to know Karina over the years, and I met her through my mom's cousin, Padre Viva, Jimmy Flynn. And of course, he still loves La Casita and has been such a wonderful inspiration for so many of us here in the community. So La Casita demystified the virus through outreach and hosting of vaccine and testing clinics. They provided volunteers here at Americana to greet people in their native language and helped with that, filling out forms, whatever it is. La Casita and Karina are always ready to help and do so in a world-class manner. So Karina, I want to thank you and all of your team for all of your work over the years. Muy bien, La Casita. We have a really dynamic Somali community in our city. And with the Somalis, it's very interesting from a generational standpoint, where some of the elders of the community, when they came here, it was more comfortable for their children and their grandchildren, the younger generations, to acclimate within America. So we've had, I won't even, should I call you young, Farhan, still? We've had people like Farhan Abdi step up now for well over a decade in our community to be a conduit between metro government and the Somali community. And it has been so impressive when you see our Somali leaders back here. These are relatively young people, I would say in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, that are showing extraordinary leadership and ability to navigate from their elders to the youngest Somalis and then all the other cultures surrounding them in our community, and they do it with such skill and entrepreneurism as well. And so they also then really leaned into the virus when it hit Louisville and said, how can we help? And they've done it in so many outstanding ways. So Farhan Abdi is the Executive Director of the Somali community of Louisville and one of the great leaders in our city. So Farhan, to you and your entire team, thank you very much. See Forward Ministries with Kevin Yusinga has been a source of energy, joy, optimism, good health in our community. So when, again, the amazing thing about all of you all is when the pandemic hit, you all were like, how can we help? How can we get involved? And this is what great people do and great citizens do. And Kevin, you exemplified this with you and your people time and time again. You're always showing up. You do it with a smile. I appreciate that because you uplift everybody around us. So let's give our thanks to See Forward Ministries and Kevin Yusinga. Super amazing group, obviously. I'm inspired, I'm excited. This is what I look like when I'm excited, by the way. So thank you guys again for everything that you're doing. But I spoke about Delano Manson earlier on and how the Kentucky Nurses Association really through their woman power and a little manpower really made so much of this happen. So Delano, again, we're just so appreciative. Please welcome Delano Manson.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the volunteers who kept showing up, the ones who came back time and time again after work on Saturdays and on Sundays. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I also want to say an extra special to the Blue Vest team. These are the ones who solve any issues and opportunities and take advantage of those opportunities to make things better. Thank you, guys. I also want to say how much I appreciate the Public Health Department inviting the Kentucky Nurses Association to the table. Sierra, thank you. Dr. Sarabeth, thank you. And also thank you to Connie Mendel, because without you guys, we would not have been invited to the table. And because we were invited to the table, I got to meet so many of you all and work with you and find out about your communities and visit places around Kentucky and places around Louisville that I had never been to. I am a native, and there are so many places that I had an opportunity to visit because of COVID. So something good came out of COVID, and it was meeting all of you. And I got to spend a little bit more time with Mr. Mayor. He learned my phone number and my email address. It has been a pleasure, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to finish by saying, all of you, if it had not been for COVID, we wouldn't be here together today at our 20th time at Americana. But we did it, and we did it together.
Americana, I've talked about how amazing it is. I know everybody has a special spot in their heart for Americana here in our community. I do want to say, Emily, not to put you on the spot, we've got to make sure whomever the next mayor is understands how important our immigrant and our refugee, our foreign-born community is. So we need to have a debate here amongst the mayoral candidates so we make sure that they're on record about what they know and what they know about the importance of our foreign-born community. So Americana has always played institutionally that role in our city, and we got to make sure whomever the next mayor is keeps growing the way we got this going. So that was an editorial comment, maybe inappropriate, but hopefully helpful. So Americana is fantastic. Let's hear from their executive director, Emily Dyer.
I am so honored to be here and to be working alongside all of the community partners that have made vaccinations possible here at Americana. We offer our space and our staff and our support, but everyone here has offered so much to make sure that we can provide vaccinations for the community. We've provided over 2,000 vaccinations at this point, and we're going strong, and I'm really excited to see us get back to normal and our communities to continue to be healthy. So thank you all for doing this with us.
Okay, I spoke about Dr. Sarah Beth Hartledge earlier on in the just incredible role that our Public Health and Wellness Department has played throughout this entire pandemic. They've been tireless as well. I mean, you all will remember how many hours that were required, especially in the early days of the pandemic, figuring out what was going on, trying to get vaccines, administering the vaccines, standing up Broadbent Arena. Man, a lot of us missed a lot of sleep. And I know Dr. Hartledge was right there at the front of all that, just leading us through this effort. So Dr. Sarah Beth Hartledge, we can't thank you enough again. Please share a few words with us.
Before I start, I just want to say thank you to our communications team who puts all this stuff together. See Kathy, Kristen, Diane, Chris from the mayor's office. So thank you guys for keeping us in line, putting this together. So vaccine events at places like Americana are really emblematic of the type of work that is needed at this phase in the pandemic. When we were at the arena, we had people begging for appointments and basically knocking our door down trying to get a vaccine. But now we know that our vaccine efforts are most successful when we engage with leaders in the local communities to reach specific groups. And their knowledge of the barriers and concerns within those groups can help us target our resources and efforts in the most effective way possible. So the team at Americana has been one of our most outstanding partners, and at this site alone, we've had 20 vaccine events and given about 2,700 doses to 1,507 individuals. When I looked at the statistics for the patients at this site, it was very interesting to see that while Louisville overall is roughly 70% white and 30% other races, the reverse is true here. We had 69% of our patients here who identify as non-white, and including a significant number of multiracial individuals. And Louisville overall is less than 10% Hispanic or Latino ethnicity, but here we have 47% of our patients at this site with Hispanic or Latino ethnicity origins. Many of the patients here are, as the mayor mentioned, members of our vibrant immigrant community. You'll hear care provided here in a number of different languages. We have 7 languages with on-site live interpreters for Spanish, Burmese, Vietnamese, Somali, Swahili, French, and Korean. So our green vest folks that you see out there are providing care in a number of different languages. And finally, I'd like to harken back to our days at Broadbent Arena and mention the volunteers in this effort. We have 115 different volunteers that have worked at this site, performing 382 shifts for a total of over 2,100 hours. There are roughly 30 volunteers here today, and I'd like to recognize a couple who are really in it for the long haul. The ladies that I'm about to mention have all been here for 15 times or more. I have injector Tony Clark with us, walked away. Mary Esch, who is one of our support staff. Nancy Matayunis, a pharmacist extraordinaire. and Lisa Pham, who's a support staff member and I believe is the only volunteer who was here on day 1 from Americana and is back here again today. And next, I'd like to recognize everyone's favorite Spanish interpreter. They make requests to work with her frequently because she's so pleasant and helpful. She's been with us since the arena days as well, and that is Miss Jeanette Rodriguez. You know, I like color coding, folks, and the white vests are the site leaders. They work for the public health department, and really their primary job at this point is vaccine events and programs. So thank you to these 3 ladies who keep everything running smoothly for us. I have Kara Collins, Allie Sebastian, and Rachel Portman. And last but certainly not least, I have Miss Carrie Christie, who's a public health department staff member, but she always volunteers to pick up this weekend shift at Americana, keeps our vaccine supplies safe and organized for us, and really goes above and beyond. Carrie's one of the secret weapons of the vaccine department, and so thank you to Carrie for being our staff member here. So my sincere thanks to all the staff and volunteers. As I've said many times, the volunteers are the heart and soul of our vaccine operations, and it's a pleasure and an honor to partner with our international community groups to get these vaccines delivered safely and effectively to their community.
Looks like we want another round of applause over there. Good job, everybody.